Eagles made a couple of moves today, some other things we want to get into as the offseason continues. We will certainly be looking ahead to all of the offseason stuff in terms of breaking down and previewing all the divisions and leading you right. You know what's funny, Jeff? I know you were at the Sixer game last night, right? You wait. Did you go last night or did you sell your tickets last night?
No, I actually went to games 1 and 2, so I've been to both.
All right, so you went last night. The NBA is literally the last day of the finals is July 22nd if it goes 7 games. You have the Olympics right after that with the basketball. The Summer League is from August 8th through the 17th or something like that, which will take you right to the first preseason game. So you're going to have a lot of basketball leading right into football season this year. So that's good. A lot of action happening there, but there's still a whole heck of a lot happening. We know there's some trades that are still possibly out there, but let's look at what happened today with the Eagles. I thought it was interesting that Jamie Newman was interesting. They decided to release him. They don't even have a third quarterback here. Is that how bad he was?
It has to be. I didn't even get a vibe on Jamie Newman was playing that bad. I mean, you gave him an opportunity from Wake Forest. Remember he was at Wake Forest and he went to Georgia, and he had a crazy draft journey to begin with. He left the year early to go into the draft. He was the only undrafted free agent that didn't get any guaranteed money. So I guess that shouldn't surprise any of us. The Eagles let him go, but they must have a better third quarterback option than Jamie Newman at this point. I think they said to themselves, look, this guy isn't worth wasting on our practice squad.
Wow.
He's definitely not worth a 53-man roster spot, so why do we have him?
No, right? I mean, I guess you figure, hey, this guy has no shot. You usually go with 4 guys, right? You'll go with 4 arms?
Yeah, usually. So there's got to be at least quarterbacks. I think they're going to get a veteran quarterback in there. I really do. I don't know who's left. I'm going to have to look that up. I should look that up before I came on here. But, yeah, that's what was mind-boggling. I did an Eagles depth chart today, and I'm like, is Jamie Newman really going to make this team? Well, he's not. So, yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah, another guy who is not going to make the team is Trevon Grimes, who, he was the guy that everybody, was going to be gushing about, I would imagine, at training camp and wanted to make the team. But how come he's not making the team? Well, he's not even going to get a chance to get to training camp, it looks like. Looked like an injury wave situation.
Yeah, you know what, Mike? That's one thing about social media. And look, I love it. I love when we can get as much content out there as possible, especially with players. But we have to remember stuff like guys like Trevon Grimes. Yeah, they look good in highlight reels and stuff like that. But there's a reason why these guys don't make rosters or why they're undrafted. And I don't know what the deal with Trevon Grimes actually was. I mean, he looked like a very promising prospect, but if he's waived injured, that means that there was an injury that crept up on him. And that's probably why the guy went undrafted in the first place. So, he got an injury settlement there, and, maybe the Eagles give him another shot down the line, but, it looks like this injury is going to keep him out a little bit. I mean, why would you put the guy on waived injured list in June?
Yeah, I mean, that was a little bit and then Khalil Tate was a guy, was a quarterback at Arizona in terms of college and then came here, tried to play wide receiver as another guy they kind of move on from. But obviously, they like their young wide receiver room because they got rid of 2 guys today that were, you would think there was going to be a lot of competition, and I guess they decided these 2 guys are not going to be a part of that competition.
Yeah, I thought Trevon Grimes was going to give J.J. Arcega-Whiteside a run for his money. In fact, I even wrote about that this morning. And, lo and behold, I guess J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, now that he's healthy, away from the COVID stuff, maybe he looks like the second-round pick the Eagles thought they were getting, or the player that we saw in the 2019 preseason. That's a really good sign for guys like him, John Hightower, Kez Watkins, guys like that. It does look like now that these guys have a future on this team. Same with Greg Ward.
And I look at over at CBS Sports, Jeff puts out his projected roster heading into training camp for the Eagles, and you have to me, it says Travis Fulgham. You have him as your starting wide receiver. Rieger, Fulgham, Smith. And Aaron Moorhead said about Fulgham, no, this guy's the real deal. You don't do what he did last year. That's not a flash in the pan.
Yeah, I agree. And that's basically what I was basing. That was what I was basing it off of. What Aaron Moorhead said on, I think it was Tuesday he talked. So, and, I'm putting up the depth chart. I'm like, well, Travis Fulgham checks all the boxes here because you got Devonta Smith who could play an X. You got Greg Ward who could play the slot, or Jalen Reagor who could play the slot. So you're looking there, and I know these guys are going to interchange, but I'm like, you kind of need that big body receiver that can catch balls downfield a little bit or catch those high possession balls. And that's where Travis Fulgham comes in. And look, I can't dismiss the 5 games he made for this football team in 2020. I mean, it's just not, a Chris T. Jones type of thing that he just falls off the face of the earth. There has to be some talent there. I just think too much success came too quick for Travis Fulgham. And ultimately, he had to learn what happens when defenses press him. Now that he's got better receivers around him, maybe the numbers go back up.
Little Chris T. Jones reference there. That was nice. Brown is Nay Brown coming up next? Is he going to?
Hey, do you remember my famous story about Nay Brown? Well, I shouldn't say my famous. It's Andy Reid's famous story.
I do not.
Remember when Andy Reid in 2001 said he didn't drop a pass the whole camp in the first play of the regular season against the Rams? Dominic Knapp throws a slant to Nay Brown. He's wide open. And what does he do? He drops it.
There was some bad wide receiver play back. Reggie Brown was actually decent for a year, got a contract, and then stunk the rest of his existence.
I don't get it. He had to get hurt. Like, you just don't fall at the face of the earth like he did.
Oh, Reggie Brown? Yeah, maybe. I mean, he was a second-round pick, had a good rookie year, and then just absolutely vanished. Now, I do see...
he was really good in 2006, too, and for, the first half of 2007. Then you're right. Then he just fell at the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Tampa, that was it.
I see in your projected Week 1 starters, you do have Zach Ertz. Is that because he's still on the roster, or are you projecting that he will be on the roster?
He's still on the roster. That's how I'm basing it all. It's on everybody who's on the roster now. So I did that with the Texans too. I mean, technically Deshaun Watson is still the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans. So that's how I base it off. So I'm looking at it as, okay, Zach Ertz is here, Dallas Goedert's here. Right now they're 1-2. If Zach Ertz isn't here, then we got to figure out who's going to be the number 2 tight end for this team, as we discussed last week. And I hope they kind of sign Richard Rodgers back. I think that would be a nice addition for them. If they do, whether they keep Zach Ertz or not, it's going to be a very deep tight end room.
Yeah, it's funny because, I look at your tight ends. You got Ertz, Goddard, Kroom, Wilson, Stoll. A lot of people, I think, like Stoll. Butler's a guy I liked coming out of college as the wideout at Iowa State, but they moved him to tight end. He's a big guy, but that whole tight end room, a lot of unproven players in there, that's for sure. Let's look at your offensive line because you have Mailata being Dillard there, and I would imagine that's the most interesting one. But does Dickerson have a shot to beat Seumalo? Do you think they would make that a legit opening?
I think so. I think Nick Sirianni, as we said earlier, he embraces competition. I think Landon Dickerson, and now granted, if he's healthy, I don't know if he's going to be back by the time training camp starts, or I mean, because what's that going to be? 9 months since he tore his ACL in December? Less than 9 months, 8 months. So again, we'll see how he progresses. That's why I think Seumalo is ultimately going to win the job because Dickerson won't be ready. But I think Dickerson is going to compete, and he's going to be that number 6 offensive lineman going forward. And that's for Jordan Mailata. This is how I'm looking at it. Based on the body of work from last year, Mailata gets the starting gig right now.
And then after listening to Jeff Stoutland today, I mean, he was gushing about Jack Driscoll and Nate Herbig. So they really like the depth of this offensive line. Plus, they got LaRaven Clark. Matt Pryor's a guy who has started some games for them. We know Dillard, if he doesn't end up starting, he's a first-round pick. They really like Dickerson. So there's a lot of depth on this team.
It's crazy to think that LaRaven Clark, who played a bunch of meaningful snaps for the Colts last year, may not make the Eagles. That's how deep they are.
All right, let's look at this defensive side of the ball that you have over at CBS Sports. A couple interesting ones here is obviously I look at the linebacker, Alex Singleton and Eric Wilson there. Davion Taylor, he was a third-round pick last year. Some people, I wonder, does Davion Taylor automatically make the team this year?
He has to show me something. Sean Bradley, I think he makes Eagles. The 6th-round pick was a linebacker. I think he makes Eagles because he was going special teams this year. But Davion Taylor, that's all he played with special teams. And look, the Eagles aren't afraid to cut third-round picks in year 2. Remember Curtis Marcy did that too. Byron Smith, I think they did. Maybe it was year 3 they cut him. I remember that was a controversial pick by Andy Reid. I mean, he's got to show this team something. Bottom line. And here's a good thing. The linebacking room isn't that deep. I mean, outside of Singleton and Wilson,
they got some interesting things there, though. Like Jannard Avery, they moved from end to linebacker, and, he's a guy they traded a fourth-round pick for. So does he, is he one of those guys that, we got to keep him because we traded some for? Then you got Jacoby Stevens. Is he going to be in the linebacker room or out? Joe Ostman, he's another guy that's kind of turned into like an Avery. He was an end. Now they moved him to linebacker. So there's a lot of weird, things that they're going to have to kind of take under consideration. The Avery one's really weird. They gave him a fourth-round pick and then changed his positions after two seasons.
Here's the thing with Avery. You can move him to linebacker, but what if there happens to be an injury on the edge again? Then you just move him back. So it shows versatility. Remember, Brandon Graham played linebacker for a little bit too, which was still really bizarre, and he was very productive as a linebacker when he was kind of that pass-rushing linebacker. But, yeah, I'm intrigued by the Avery thing, the Ostman thing. I think Avery has a better shot sticking than Ostman does, though.
All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. Check out his stuff over at cbssports.com. And he's got all the depth charts. We'll be talking about those over the next couple of weeks here as we get you ready for the offseason through the summer. And, hey, we still have to figure out what's going to happen with, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he is not showing. Now, it's funny because, some people are like, he'll be there at training camp time. We'll see how that thing all plays out because they're getting Jordan Love. I guess they're saying that he's definitely ready to go in week number 1. And if you're the Packers, at what point do you just say, look, if he doesn't want to be here, we're not going to give him to someone else. We're not going to let him, just let him not play.
Exactly, and I think that's what they're going to do. Look, if Aaron Rodgers wants to forfeit $35 million, then that's his right. That's what he wants to do. I wouldn't just give him away to another team. And
yeah, why am I giving him away to another team to let him be in the league? Just be, okay, you don't want to play? Fine.
Yeah, exactly. Retire. Do what Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson did. Just retire.
Yeah, I agree with that. If I'm the Packers at this point, I have you under contract. If you don't want to play, we'll fine you, and you're not going to be in the league. We're not going to just let you go someplace else and play for that team. Just don't play. They have an answer there. It's not like they have no answer. They drafted a guy in the first round. He let him step in and play.
As great as Aaron Rodgers was last year, I was a little disappointed in him in the NFC Championship game. I honestly thought he should have played better. And that's nitpicking a little bit, but that's something that front offices can use against him. They're like, well, look, what did you do when we got to those NFC Championship games? You didn't actually do much. It's unfortunate because he's been so good the last 2 years.
All right, is it fair or foul that the Broncos are putting Peyton Manning in their ring of fame?
I think it's fair. He did, he set the passing touchdown record and the passing yardage record for Denver. He was really good there for 3 years. And was he the ultimate reason they won a Super Bowl in 2015? No, it was the defense. I talked to plenty of defensive players on that Denver team about that. But Peyton Manning was still their leader. I think it is fair that Peyton Manning is in the Denver Broncos Ring of Honor. I really do.
All right. Do you anticipate, Jeff, seeing any more trades this offseason?
I think we'll see. I mean, if you're going in general, yes. If you're talking about quarterbacks, I think we might see at least one or two more.
Or I mean, okay, like Jordan Hicks' name has come up. You've got obviously Zach Ertz, Chandler Jones,
Gardner Minshew. He might be one.
Gardner Minshew's another good one there. Gilmore, we heard a little bit about him.
Yeah, I honestly think we're going to see some trade. Not in the next month or so. I mean, it could happen. I mean, Julio Jones got traded this week, but these teams are still in minicamp. But maybe in July or August, when teams are assembling their rosters and teams get desperate, I think that's when we'll definitely see some more trades.
All right, Sports Bash Live. And by the way, this I think this Deshaun Watson thing. You mentioned him a little while back. That this Deshaun Watson thing might pick up a little bit because I guess one of his former teammates said that Watson wants to be in Denver. So you're going to probably – and we know Denver, that quarterback thing is going to be up for grabs there. Can you imagine if Deshaun Watson's like, I want to go play in Denver, and they end up – that you have Deshaun Watson, Locke, and Bridgewater out there, and who knows what's going to happen with Watson, I guess. I mean, this whole thing still needs to play out.
Well, yeah, we still have to wait for the legal process to play out, but it's funny because about maybe 4 or 5 months ago, we were thinking Deshaun Watson might get traded for 3 first-round picks minimum. Maybe at this point, Denver may only have to give up 1 first-round pick. They may not even have to give a first-round pick if they want Deshaun Watson. Here, we'll just take the contract. We'll take the shot. Whatever happens, happens.
Right. All right, Jeff Kerr at Jeff Kerr CBS. Read more from him over at CBS Sports. Click on the NFL tab and you can get all of Jeff's NFL coverage right there. The Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. As mini camps are continuing this week, we'll continue to cover them on Friday here with Jeff on 97.3. What was the atmosphere in that place like last night?
It was loud. I thought Sunday my ears were about to explode because they tried to make it too loud because they were down. But last night it was just a more natural reaction, especially when Shake. I got a funny story, Mike. So I'm a big proponent of shooting. Being a basketball coach and stuff, and I study shooting a lot. As soon as that ball went out, shakes hands. That 3-pointer at the buzzer, I knew that was going in.
I said every shot he took last night after he made that first one, when he made that first three. He looked like the Shake Milton on Saturday afternoon against the Clippers that day when he just made everything.
Yeah, I remember Doc Rivers was like gushing over him when he was coach of the Clippers. I'm like, man, Shake Milton. Maybe Shake Milton could be so. He looked like the Shake Milton from December to the end of January.
We'll see. I'm interested to see if he's back in the rotation now and how Doc Rivers kind of uses all that.
I will say this. I know I'm a Sixers fan, too, but it's really driving me nuts when I was watching Inside the NBA last night when I got home. And everybody still thinks, the Sixers are going to lose in 6. And then you go on ESPN and it's the same thing. I'm like, guys, did you not watch the last 6 quarters? Sixers have flat out dominated this team.
Well, they still have no answer for Joel Embiid. So until they figure that out, it's going to be tough for them to win this thing. All right, Jeff, Friday it is.
Yep. All right, Mike, I'll see you Friday.
All right, Jeff Kerr, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.